AskReddit by SecureNe910. Parents of twins, have you ever forgotten who was which baby? Do you think they are still named the correct way around? My aunt had twins. When they came home, she kept their bracelets on so she could tell them apart. One day, baby K got a small cut on one of her fingers. My aunt decided it was safe to cut the bracelets off now because she could tell baby K and baby B apart. She cut off the bracelets, she tucked them in for their nap in their crib. When they woke up later, both babies had identical cuts on the same finger. No idea where it came from. My aunt cannot say for certain that she didn't mix the girls up after that. Some cursed horror movie hours bullshit just happened. My parents painted my twins' toenail pink to keep us straight. Father of twin boys here. We probably mixed them up several times, so they most likely have the right names now. We hope. My parents not so cleverly wrote our names on the bottom of our shoes, so we joke that it's totally possible they mixed us up at some point. My wife put a small Sharpie dot on one of ours pinky toe, just in case. We kept the hospital bracelets on our identical twins for about a week. After that, we were so sleep deprived, colic, that we stopped worrying about it. Honestly, I figured that if we mixed up the names once that we would do it more than once, which means that we had a 50% chance of them coming out of the potato stage with their original names anyway. I'm reasonably sure we got it right, but now that they can tell me their own names, the names they have suit them. If that makes sense. At what age did you decide that you were finished mixing them up? My friend's twin sisters had a tattoo that the hospital did behind each one's ear. The firstborn had a dot in her right ear, F equals a right, and the second had a dot in her left ear, S second equals a left. They used a needle and ink. Very small dot. At the hospital, here, in Brazil, they also need to know which is which to track weight and height, meds, and many other things. Getting their first face tat right out of the womb. All the time. My identical boys looked different at birth, plus one was bigger than the other, so it was easy at the start. Now 1-year-olds it's harder. I never dress them the same as it tricks me more so. Luckily they have birthmarks on different body parts. Especially when they are running around causing mischief and you don't have the side-by-side comparison. My twins are too, and I've called out the wrong one a lot for getting in trouble. We got lucky with our daughters. They look exactly alike, but one is noticeably larger and has been since they were born. Hectometers. Do I have the right baby? Lays both down on the floor to look for the bigger one. Hahija. My cousins are identical, but one of them had ongoing lung issues and needed steroids. They were preemies. They did get mixed up once. It was very bad. The one that needed the steroids didn't get them for almost a week after a confusing bath time, and ended up back in hospital after a bad asthmatic wheezing episode. My aunt had a bit of a breakdown and pierced one of their ears after that. I hate it, but I understand why they went for something so drastic. They are both in their 20s now and doing great. They do medical tattoos now for identical twins when one has a severe medical issue. For literally this exact reason. First time I heard of it was toddlers and one was TD1. Definitely cannot make that mistake even once. Which is honestly brilliant. Just a little freckle behind an ear, nobody would ever even know was a tattoo, but definitely a life-saving peace of mind. Only joking, I am Fred. Honestly woman, and you call yourself out mother. Mine are identical. In the hospital they gave me a surgical skin marker, per my request, and I used it to write the first initial of one twin on the bottom of his big toe. After a couple of weeks I found a difference with hair swirls on the back of their heads, but kept up with the initial on the toe for a while anyhow for everyone else's sake. Around 3-4 they developed different freckle patterns that made it more obvious to others. It is one of those things where if they had been mixed up as tiny babies it's fairly irrelevant at this point, especially since they have the same DNA. but we kept close track of it because I was worried about it back then. I feel like the surgical skin marker is the safest bet. Every other option has the potential for so much mix-up. Father of twin boys here. We probably mixed them up several times, so they most likely have the right names now. We hope. Like when someone gets amnesia from a bonk on the head and fixes it via the same process. My identical twin boys had a dangerous level of growth discordance in utero. Basically twin B was in there hogging up all the nutrients. When they were born at 35 weeks, twin A weighed 5.5 pounds and twin B weighed 7 pounds, 11 ounces. Needless to say, they've been easy to tell apart since birth for us. To this day, twin B has a slightly bigger head than his brother. Interestingly, extended family members and teachers still get them confused. It surprises me because our immediate family can always tell them apart. They are so different personality-wise. I find that identical twins aren't 100% identical. There are subtle differences. I can almost always tell my boys apart. My fiance has mixed them up a couple times when he wasn't looking closely, but you'd never permanently mix them up. In my case, their heads are a bit differently shaped, one has chubbier cheeks and they have different smiles. DNA is just a starting point. If you cloned me, for example, that guy's face would be a different shape than mine, because I got some serious orthodontic done as a teenager that involved spreading the roof of my mouth wider with a miserable device for 2 years. A lot of stuff happens to us post-conception to make us unique. The first thing I've packed in my hospital bag is quick dry nail polish in pink and lilac. A color for each girl. Hopefully that'll enable us to keep them straight until we can tell the difference between them. Here in the UK in hospital they have paper tags on their ankles or wrists with either their name on or twin 1 twin 2. They kept those tags on till they came home and I cut them off. By then I could tell them apart. I have identical twin boys. They had a 1 pound's weight difference so it was easy to not confuse them at first. After my little one caught up to his brother's growth other differences appeared, such as personality and facial expressions. Even now I can look back at pictures and know who is who based on smile alone. Our second baby was fraternal boy-girl twins. For the first few days their older sibling would announce the blue one is crying. The pink one wants you. So darn cute. Well, one of mine has a penis and the other doesn't, so it's pretty easy to tell them apart. Just check their pants when you forget. As a parent of identical twins, it gets very easy to tell them apart from the get-go. Identical twins aren't really that identical in the grand scheme of things. There is always some identifying factor that you as a parent will recognize. It's crazy because I feel like mine looks so extremely different to each other, but we have friends who can't tell them apart at all. I guess it's a perception thing. It might just be exposure. I was a babysitter to a set of twins and for a really long time I couldn't tell them apart. Then one day I could suddenly see all the differences and never struggled again. Identical twin here. My parents used colored hair ties as bracelets to tell my brother and I apart. His was blue and mine was green. Ever since then green has always been my color. I don't know if you can bond with a color, but I'm pretty sure I have. We sometimes joke that our older brother switched the bracelets to get back at our mom for something stupid. He's a couple years older, and who has a bigger dick. At this point, I just use both names, and address them both. The one I wanted about the issue, and the other one about something random. Mine are fraternal twins but so bloody alike that most people thought they were identical. I cannot with all honesty put my hand on my heart and swear that twin 1 is actually twin 1. I'm pretty sure, but in those first weeks with almost no distinguishing features or personality I can't be 100%. My ex-husband would say differently, but this is the moment I realized that I really do have face blindness, not just a bad memory. When they were really young, I couldn't tell who was who. One of the twins has a very distinctive birthmark on her forearm. My sil held one of them and asked me who the baby was. I grinned and approached them both. While unwrapping the blanket I said, "Who are you?" The room filled with laughter. To this day it serves as a funny memory to me. Mine are identical, but one's had a hemangioma since birth, so I can just look under his shirt if I ever lose track. Lol. I can see the difference in their faces now though, so it doesn't happen as often. I used bracelets for a while, and pretty much always have separate sets of clothes for them, as I'd like them to have their own identities. Once they got teeth, the one had either two teeth that fused together or one tooth with two crowns, so that has made me very confident I never mixed them up. They also have very different personalities and I can hear the differences in their voices. My mom definitely mixed my sister and I up when we were babies. She also did the nail polish trick someone else mentioned, but it was children's nail polish that peeled off easily. When that happened, she just guessed. Eventually, my sister got a mole that I didn't have and that helped, but till then, we looked exactly the same.